in our state. But I would absolutely do that. But I do think when we start
Hey guys, so
talking about
basically,
education,
for
and we
some
think
reason
that we're
it
going to have a federal
cut me
government
off earlier, and I did not
one-size-fits-all,
know about
we're
this. So basically,
completely
just cut
losing
me off, and
track
like
of the
I've been
fact
just
that education
talking,
differs
not
by state.
realizing that I was cut off. So
Some
let's go
school
back to
districts are doing a
debates.
fantastic
And I'm
job,
sorry,
some
like
less so. But the
basically I was
idea
saying a
that
lot of things,
every
and I
school
didn't realize I was
district,
cut off
state, and
like
every
what, 10
teacher is
minutes
somehow
ago,
indoctrinating
more like
people is just
15 minutes
false.
ago now. But
When I was
yeah, I'm
building
back
a
right now.
company
So
from
let's watch
scratch,
part 2 of
with
this
small town
live
kids,
debate.
and we went, grew up in a town of 300, but we built a global company in 132 countries with over 100,000 customers. We listened to those customers. We spent time with them. We talked to them. We did that. And as governor, well, education is one of the biggest part of a state budget. So as a governor, I shadow a student. I don't, the night before I find out the student finds out, I'm going to go to every class with them. I don't sit and lecture school districts how to do it. I go and see the experience. And there's a lot of things that have to change. But what needs to change in education is it's innovation. We're doing it the same way we did it 50 years ago with innovation, not regulation. I would get rid of the Department of Education. I would give block grants to schools, but I'd give them on merit based on who's doing the most innovative. I just got done holding the 7th annual Governor's Conference on Innovation Education. You should see what the people are doing when you cut loose the red tape, get the burden off their back. They care. Teachers in this country, the vast majority of them care about those kids. They're working in low-paying jobs, and they're fighting for those kids and their families.
Governor Haley, you said that this is the women's issue of our time.
First, I'll tell you, as a parent, the one thing you want is for your child to have a better life than you did. And we can talk about all of these things, and there's a lot of crazy woke things happening in schools, but we've got to get these kids reading. If a child can't read by 3rd grade, they're 4 times less likely to graduate high school. So we need to make sure we bring in reading remediation all over this country. We need transparency in the classroom because parents should never have to wonder what's being said or taught to their children in the classroom. Parents need to be deciding which schools their kids go to because they know best. And let's put vocational classes back into the high schools. Let's teach our kids to build things again. When we do that and we allow that innovation, that's when it'll get back. And yes, I will always say, I'm going to...
Hey, I used to go to a vocational high school a long time ago. And I kind of regret, in a way I regret that we moved from Pennsylvania when I was a kid. So... because I went to a very wonderful vocational high school, and after graduation I probably would have found a nice local job that would have just hired me because I'd not even have to go to college. On a local level within the county, they would have been looking at my application and saying, oh look, you went to Westside Tech, awesome, so you already have skills, you basically studied 4 years of this career right here. And so we had people studying to be plumbers, we had people studying to be mechanics, body guys, auto body guys. And they had 2 shops inside, they had 2 garages, actual mechanic garages in the school. One was for the guys studying auto body, one was for the guys doing auto mechanics. They had a cosmetology class. They had law enforcement, but law enforcement covered firefighters and ambulance. Obviously, you have to go to college or to the police academy after that. Regarding all the other career choices, they even had an ethical hacking course. Literally, basically, you could become a hacker right out of high school. So yeah, the only non-cringe thing that Haley says that we need more vocational schools. I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I'm totally for vocational schools. We need all that.
And you just said you want a civics test or public service for those under 25 to be able to vote. So the question is, do you want a mental acuity test for presidents over 75?
I believe in the people of this country to tell the difference between somebody who's an automaton and somebody who's actually a thinking agent in the White House, which we don't have in there today. And I will tell you, I want to address Vice President Pence's comment. I think we do need somebody of a different generation to lead this nation forward. Look at the way I've run this campaign. Going to the south side of Chicago, to Kensington, in the middle of Philadelphia, where traditional Republican candidates don't go. We have an opportunity to build a multi-ethnic working class majority to deliver a landslide. And I think I'm the only candidate in this race, young or old, black or white, to bring all of those voters along.
Okay, I like the fact that he, attacked the whole boomer thing. Okay, boomer, we don't need you anymore to run things the way you run, right? You just keep running stuff to the ground because, you're on the payroll of major corporations, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, whatever. But does it have to be multi-ethnic? Can we just keep it I don't know, like, does it have to be like that? So, yeah. So, yeah, Trump. So, yeah, like I'm still probably going to vote for Trump. I mean, I don't believe in elections. I don't care about elections. I'm just like in my yesterday's stream, I said like I really don't take them seriously at all. Like I just do it just for fun, right? And this live debate I'm doing for fun. Actually, I think is this guy Ada Hutchinson, or like or is the other guy from North Dakota? Is he from? Sorry, the guy from North Dakota. Is he Ada Hutchinson, or is this Ada Hutchinson? I think this might be Ada, the guy. Oh wow, look at that cringe pin right there. Oh, gross. Dude, like just have an American pin. You know, why do you have that other flag next to it? That's just cringe. Like this guy, you know, like he's got like a normal pin right there.
For a president of the United States in changing that, what would you do to change that?
Well, our nation was founded upon the Judeo-Christian values that has made this the greatest nation on God's green earth. I'm a big believer in Ephesians 3:20 that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or imagine. Our responsibility should be to model the behavior we want others to follow.
But then again, this country was founded by Freemasons,
education.
probably Judeo.
The only way we change education in this nation is to break the back of the teachers' unions. They are standing in the doorhouse of our kids, locking them into failing schools and locking them out of the greatest future they could have.
As president, Governor DeSantis, would you support some mandatory military service for all Americans?
I think it should be voluntary. I'm somebody that volunteered to serve, inspired by September 11th, and I deployed to Iraq alongside U.S. Navy SEALs in places like Fallujah, Ramadi, and it's something that I think has taught me.
No, like I'd say that there's nothing wrong with having mandatory military service. You know, like some countries still do it around the world.
On the mission above all else, and guys come together and they get it done, and that's how I would view being the president of the United States. It's not about me. It's not about all these other side issues. My sole focus will be on your future and reversing this country's decline.
Okay, now for something a little out of this world, and this is for you, Governor Christie. Do you believe that the recent spike in UFO encounters...
I get the UFO question?
Yeah, you do.
Come on,
there
man.
You go. No, but okay, we've been hearing a lot of
UFOs are demonic entities, like and they're demonic entities slash governments, you know, hoaxes. Or I'll not say hoax, I'll say probably experiments. Yeah, like it's one of those two, or it's actually both at the same time. Let's just be honest. There's a book by I keep forgetting his name. Dr. Hugh Ross. He wrote a book something about the little green men, and basically, like he explained how like 98% or 99% of alien information is either a combination of like actual hoaxes or government experiments, or it's basically government disinformation. Like the U.S. Air Force is just, they'll work on an experiment, someone will notice something in the sky, and the government will promote some kind of conspiracy theory about, oh yeah, look this story right here, but then it turns out the story's a hoax, and then...
There's never been a better time to get away with a great deal on the Hyundai you've always wanted. It's your journey. Own every mile at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Now's the time to get in and get away.
Yo guys, that was an accident. That was not supposed to be there. For some reason the ad just played. I don't know why. So, yeah. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that like basically it's all hoaxes. Like it's a combination of hoaxes, government disinformation, it's government experiments, and then Dr. Hugh Ross lays out that like there's like that 1%, or I don't think he says 1%. I think it's like less than that. He says there's that percentage, a tiny percentage, where it's actual real demonic activity, and like he says that yes, like basically, so it's either a combination of like government experiments and some other hoax conspiracy theories, and I think he said like it's 99 or 98%, something like that. And then he said there's like this tiny percentage of actual true demonic activity. And like Yes, from an Orthodox perspective, like most of us, agree that, aliens are not, life. They're basically, well, they're not life that's good for us. Like it's just evil, and it's basically just demons. It's not like it's nothing good for us at all. And so yeah, so it's a combination of both. It's government experiments and the demonic activity. That's what this whole UFO stuff is. But yeah, and plus I did not want to hear Chris Christie give his explanation because he's fat. I don't like people like that. I'm not trying to be rude. Like I get it. If you have a medical condition, like you have some kind of legitimate reason, I understand that. Okay, but like if there's nothing wrong with you at all physically, you have no medical condition at all. Well, sorry, but open game right there. Like don't tell me like there's like nothing at all. Just you don't have to do lift weights. You don't have to lift like I do. You don't have to go to the gym. Fine. Just eat less or something. Just like start to kind of realize yes, this ain't working. And yeah, and so like that's why I don't care about what Chris Christie has to say. I don't care if you're 1,000,000 times correct on some kind of issue. If you're fat like Chris Christie, I just will not take you seriously, and I will not believe you at all. Okay, let's go back to the Trump conversation right here, because they got their debate going on. Let's go back right here.
But that would make Kamala Harris the candidate?
Well, not really. I mean, I guess they'd have maybe a free-for-all. A lot of people say she has to remain for certain reasons, the candidate. She has to. I don't think that's true, actually. I don't think that other people would stand for it. She has some bad moments. Her moments are almost as bad as his. I think his are worse, actually.
Yeah.
But
she seems pretty senile, too.
She speaks in rhyme. It's weird. It's weird. But she has bad moments. And
in rhyme?
Is it because she's black? Is it because she's black? She's always trying to rap all the time? I don't know.
Well, the way she talks, the bus will go here and then the bus will go there, because that's what buses do. And it's weird. The whole thing is weird. This is not a president of the United States future. And I think they probably have some kind of a primary and other people will get involved.
Newsom, right?
Could be. I mean, I always got along well with him, believe it or not. But could be him, could be somebody else. He's got a big load on his shoulders, because you look at California, what's happened. But I don't know if the American people really, the people that vote for him, I don't even know if they care. You look at so many of the things that are going on, and people don't seem to be. In the old days, if you had a bad record, it meant a lot. Today, if you have a bad record, it doesn't really mean anything. He looks good. He's a nice-looking guy, speaks well. But Biden, every time you watch him talking, it's like he's walking on eggs. You're waiting for him to collapse. And he almost always does. And I got to know the leaders of all of the countries, essentially, but the big ones. And the bigger, the tougher the leader. It's like sort of, I guess maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. But I got to know President Xi of China and Putin and Kim Jong-un, North Korea. Did a great job with North Korea, kept us out of a nuclear war. We would have 40,000 dead soldiers right now. They'd drop a nuke right on top of the military base. But we have 40,000 soldiers over there. And I did great. I got along with him great. That's a positive. The press said, he said nice things about Kim Jong-un. I also said horrible things at the beginning. Horrible enough that he wanted to talk. And we talked, and we met in Singapore. We met actually twice. And we had unbelievable meetings. I know him very well. We were in great shape with him.
What do you think he and Xi and Putin think of Biden?
I think they can't believe it. I think they probably say this is some kind of a system. They had great respect for our country. They respected me. They had great respect for our country when I was there. Every one of them. Look, if you go to North Korea, you take a look at what happened. The Olympics was dead. South Korea spent billions on the Olympics. Nobody was going to go. They didn't want to get blown up. They called me and they said, we are going to let the Olympics proceed. This is North Korea. I said, you should go into the Olympics. Put your athletes in. It wasn't like, they were big on athletes because,
famine.
But they went in and they actually participated. And within about 2 days, the entire thing was sold out. And if it wasn't me, that would have never happened. But I got along very well with him, and that's a positive thing. He does have massive nuclear power, by the way. And if Hillary would have gotten in, or if the Obama thought process continued, it would have been a nuclear war, absolutely, with North Korea. He was expecting to go into a war, and it would have been a nuclear war.
So do you think the rest of the world looks on at Biden and thinks someone else has got to be running the government?
Well, somebody else has to be. I don't think he's capable of doing anything. Look, when I debated him, I said, how come, and this was in front of probably not a friend of yours, Chris Wallace, he was the moderator.
Not a friend.
I said, why is it he wants to be Mike, but he doesn't have the talent? It's one of those
bitchy little man.
He wanted to be his father, but he didn't have the talent of his father was great. His father,
a little fussy man.
His father interviewed me and in 60 Minutes, it was actually a 10. Can you believe it?
No, I totally believe his father had talent, at least.
I may have been the only guy that he gave a good 60 Minutes to. He was.
Okay, guys, so...
And the solution is not 4 more years of Joseph Biden.
Ada Hutchinson.
The solution is not 4 more years of Donald Trump. The solution is new leadership that can bring bold ideas to America and to bring out the best of America. A president's #1 responsibility is to bring out the best of our people. That's what Ronald Reagan did. And he did it with optimism and hope for our country, with a consistent conservatism.
Boring, cringe, boomer stuff. No one wants to hear this. Ronald Reagan, rah, rah, rah. Horrible on the Second Amendment. Ronald Reagan was totally bad on the whole Second Amendment issue. Like when he was governor, I believe that, when he was governor, he's the one who freaked out with the whole Black Panthers, almost raiding the state capitol in California. And so, yeah, it was under him when they started to kind of pass gun control laws. And then, and then but when you think about it, it has nothing to do with just Black Panthers. It's basically every American's right to carry, a weapon, right? And then, of course, Ronald Reagan becomes president. He signs all these laws about, automatic weapons and how they're scary, And so, yes, so thanks a lot, Ronald Reagan. So we don't need any more Ronald Reagan policies anymore. Nope.
Against men. I'm Tim Scott. I'm asking you for your vote, and if you're in Iowa, I'm asking you to caucus for me. You can go to votetimscott.com for more information or to make a contribution.
Governor Christie.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Martha. Look, everybody on this stage wants to be the next president of the United States. And the only way that's going to happen is if we beat Joe Biden. I'm the only one on this.
What are you going to do? Are you going to sit on it?
Being outspent 3-1. Beating a Democratic incumbent is not easy. The last Democratic incumbent president who was defeated was Jimmy Carter. And he was defeated by a conservative governor from a blue state who knew how to get results, who stood for the truth, who cared about accountability, and stood strong and hard against waste. Those are the very things that I did in my...
No, Chris Christie, you don't care about accountability, you don't care about truth, can you please just shut your pie hole, and lose some weight, just, shut your mouth so you stop eating. Seriously, you're fat, you're ugly, you're stupid, no one cares about your opinion. Seriously, how are you even in politics? Who voted for you? But then again, it just shows, I guess it just shows the population of New Jersey, because who to vote for this guy? And wasn't he elected governor of New Jersey twice? Like he had 2 terms? That's just pathetic.
Watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings to go to a country they had never been, all in the name of protecting America. If they are willing to protect us from there, we should be willing to fight for America here. I will beat Joe Biden, and he knows that. I will strengthen our economy, and we'll bring this inflation down. We will put transparency in the classroom. We will secure our borders. We will have the backs of our law enforcement, and we will make sure we have a strong national security. And once again, we will make sure we have an America that is strong and proud. We have a country to save. Join us. Go to NikkiHaley.com, and let's get it done.
I don't think she's really interested in saving her country, especially when she wants to continue the war in Ukraine, and to protect Israel. Basically, a Nikki Haley presidency would just bankrupt us immediately.
Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad. The disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, their war on energy, runaway spending that launched the worst inflation in 40 years, a crisis at our southern border, an assault on our values and liberties, and the American people have had enough. But I know we can bring it back. But different times call for different leadership. The Republican Party owes the American people a choice. Proven leadership at the national level that knows how to move a conservative agenda forward. We proved in the Trump-Pence years you can turn this country around faster than you can imagine. And I have faith we will again. Because I have faith in the American people, the good, decent, hardworking, faith-filled, idealistic people of this country. And I have faith that God is not done with America yet. And if we will renew our faith in one another and renew our faith in Him who has ever guided this nation since we arrived on these wilderness shores, I know the best days for the greatest nation on earth are yet to come.
Thank you. Mr. Ramaswamy.
I was born in 1985, and I grew up into a generation where we were taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways we are really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion in 1776. And this is our moment to revive those common ideals. God is real. There are two genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to man. Capitalism lifts us up from poverty. There are 3 branches of government, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution, it is the strong.
Okay, so basically, so like the first couple sentences were okay, they're fine, but then capitalism, no, sorry, they do not lift us out of poverty. Basically, capitalism is what brought us to where we are right now. You can say government interventionism, all that stuff, whatever, but it's basically the it's the corporate companies that control our government. All these lobbyists, Raytheon, like what's funny is that Vivek, he's making fun of all these politicians for being on Raytheon's payroll, Lockheed Martin's payroll, but then for some reason he just doesn't realize, well, these companies are capitalistic companies. So, yeah, so sorry, Vivek, but capitalism does not get us out of poverty. Capitalism is what's leading us to this whole situation. Capitalism is what's basically destroying, Ukraine right now. Like this what it has led us to. So no, like basically in the name of capitalism, there's war, and war, right? The corporations, like they don't, and also capitalism is not about competition. Get out with this BS. Like capitalism will not get us out of poverty. It's not about competition. It's about monopoly.
On the stage tonight, and thank you to Milwaukee.
Thank you, everybody. We will see you on the campaign trail from debates to primaries.
Rough.
Really?
His father was tough. He was great, though. He was great at what he did. But Chris Wallace was so upset. He was guarding this guy who wouldn't do a show, by the way. He wouldn't do. I figured I didn't mind Chris Wallace because Biden wouldn't do a show, and it was very obvious. He kept asking him, but he wouldn't do the show. So I figured he's got to like me. But he came from a different planet. But remember when I asked the question, why is it that the mayor of Moscow's wife is allowed to give you $3.5 million? Don't forget, that was brought up. Now it's brought up all the time, but that was brought up by me long before anyone ever heard of it. I said, the mayor of Moscow's wife giving you $3.5 million. What did you do to deserve $3.5 million? To Biden. And Chris Wallace said, this has nothing to do with the debate. I mean, he
got in the way of the question.
No, it was crazy. And I said, well, wait a minute. He got $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife. Now, people forget that, but if you go back and take a look, you will see. And Chris Wallace didn't want me to ask that question. I said, I think it's a very appropriate question. It turned out to be much more appropriate than people thought.
Amazing.
Well, I'll just like to add to that, it's because the mayor of Moscow, he's not even a big Russian patriot either. like his wife's definitely not patriotic. Basically, like their partisan inner circle is kind of more pro-American, and so that's why the like the mayor of Moscow's wife would most likely give Joe Biden some money, because like basically I'll not be surprised if the mayor of Moscow wants some kind of regime change. Right now with this whole war situation, he's been kind of okay, simmer down a bit, but like when it comes to an opportunity, he'll probably jump on that train and probably be okay with taking leadership of Russia himself. Believe me, there are so many people in Russia right now who like simmer down because of the whole war situation. So they gotta be careful what they say, because in wartime, like you could definitely be in trouble for what you say, especially if you're a politician. But they're waiting for their moment, and it's highly possible that like one of the reasons why Biden got the money from the mayor of Moscow's wife is because most likely they're pro-Western leaning and they want to see some regime change in Russia.
So do you have a preference in, assuming you're the Republican nominee and all goes as you plan it to go, do you have a preference in who you run against?
In many ways, I'd love to run against him because his record's so bad. It's still horrible when you look at inflation and everything else, but others also have very bad records. I mean, California's a bad record, so, should it be Gavin or should it be somebody else? When I look at San Francisco, what's happened to that incredible city? That was one of the greatest cities in the world just a short while ago, and now it's very sad when you look at it. Los Angeles, every city practically, all the Democrat-run cities. Republican-run cities are doing very nicely because they arrest people when you have crimes. And they don't go after political candidates because they think it's good. It's like been amazing. My poll numbers are the highest I've ever had. But because people understand it.
Can I just ask you, that
Yes.
gets back to my original question. So if the protest didn't work, you got elected anyway.
Yeah.
Impeachment didn't work twice, obviously. Indictment is not working. Your poll numbers go up. When they raided Mar-a-Lago in August of last year, your numbers went up. They can indict you 20 times, and you're not gonna lose the Republican primary because of that.
Well,
So,
it makes it look even more ridiculous. I mean, the 4 indictments, and maybe there'll be more. I don't know. These people are crazy.
But they're counterproductive. So if you chart it out, it's an escalation, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what's next after, try to put you in prison for the rest of your life? That's not working. So don't they have to kill you now?
I think the people of our country don't get enough credit for how smart they are.
Why are you giving these people ideas, Tucker? Come on. I know he's not trying to give them ideas, but still. Like, I just would not be surprised if those are some ideas some people have, so. But I'm not gonna watch this whole interview, but I do want, because I was cut off earlier, this is why I'm doing part 2 right now, because for some reason I was cut off from my previous live stream, and I was saying some stuff, and I didn't, and obviously you guys probably did not hear what I was saying, so I'll just go back a bit. I'll try to rewind to this one issue right here, I think.
This guy, who wouldn't do a show, by the way, he wouldn't do. I figured, I didn't mind Chris Wallace because the Olympics proceed. This is North Korea. I said, you should go into the Olympics. Put your athletes in. It wasn't like, they were nuclear war. We would have 40,000 dead soldiers right now. They'd drop a nuke right on top of the military base. But we have 40,000 soldiers over there. And I did great. I got along with them great. That's a positive. The press said, he said nice things about Kim Jong-un. I also said horrible things at the beginning. Horrible enough that he wanted to talk. And we talked, and we met in Singapore. We met actually twice. And we had unbelievable meetings. I know him very well. We were in great shape with him.
What do you think he and Xi and Putin think of Biden?
I think they can't believe it. I think they probably say this is some kind of a system. They had great respect for our country. They respected me. They had great respect for our country when I was there. Every one of them. Look, if you go to North Korea, you take a look at what happened. The Olympics was dead. South Korea spent billions on the Olympics. Nobody was going to go. They didn't want to get blown up. They called me and they said, we are going to let the Olympics proceed. This is North Korea. I said, you should go into the Olympics. Put your athletes in. It wasn't like, they were big on athletes because,
Famine.
But they went in and they actually participated. And within about 2 days, the entire thing was sold out. And if it wasn't me, that would have never happened. But I got along very well with him, and that's a positive thing. He does have massive nuclear power, by the way. And if Hillary would have gotten in, or if the Obama thought process continued, it would have been a nuclear war, absolutely, with North Korea. He was expecting to go into a war, and it would have been a nuclear war.
So do you think the rest of the world looks on at Biden and thinks someone else has got to be running the government?
Well, somebody else has to be. I don't think he's capable of doing anything. Look, when I debated him, I said, how come, and this was in front of probably not a friend of yours, Chris Wallace. She speaks in rhyme. It's weird. Could be him, could be somebody else. He's got a big load on his shoulders, because you look at California, what's at the beach. This beach is seeming to play a big role, but they love pictures of him on the beach. I think he looks terrible on the beach. Thinks he looks fabulous. He do that I don't believe he could do it, because he's just. Can you imagine you're in an apartment house and rockets are going into that building and blowing it up and knocking it down? And who can? Why should anything? Why should anybody? Human beings, these are human, whether they're Russian or Ukrainian or whatever they are. It's got to be stopped, and it can't be stopped very easily. It would have never started. If I were president, it would have never.
Yeah, right here. So so before I close the live stream, I'd like to just kind of comments right here. Trump's saying that the war never would have started if he was president, and that's probably true. But he would not have used the dumb Mike Pence approach. He probably would have just did the whole, let's make a deal, right? Because he wrote the book Art of the Deal, and Donald Trump has been promoting this idea. Let's just make deals with people. Let's make deals with other nations, and like he mentioned, he avoided nuclear war with North Korea. Because he just had a conversation with them, hey, let's just talk to them, see what they want. No matter what your opinion is about somebody, no matter how bad you might think they are, see what they actually want. And you could avoid conflict, and you could literally just save the planet, without getting nuked. And so that's what he did, right? And so the establishment doesn't like this, and then Trump's talking about the whole Ukraine situation. He probably would have just told Putin, Zelensky, he probably would have first talked to Putin, saying, hey, okay, what's going on? Why, why is Ukraine worried about you invading them? And then Putin would probably explain to Trump, listen, so here's the Donbass region. Ukraine's currently in a civil war, and the Donbass people are being attacked. Ukraine is not following the Minsk Accords as they promised. So we're probably going to give them an ultimatum, because we don't want them to join NATO. We don't want them to continue bombing the people of Donbass, and we'll probably just seize Donbass from them. So basically, we're going to invade them if they don't agree to negotiate with us, right? And that's another thing. Zelensky is refusing to negotiate. Trump then would have told Zelensky, hey, Zelensky, calm down with your attitude, bring it down a notch, relax. 1, will not accept you into NATO. 2, give the Donbass over to Russia peacefully, and avoid any conflict. And you'll not be a NATO country. You'll be a neutral country, and that's it. You'll be a buffer zone, okay? And that's probably what Trump would have told Zelensky most likely. Trump definitely would have told Zelensky, dude, shut up, you little clown, and let the big boys talk. We'll decide what to do with you, okay? But you stay silent, you little clown. That's probably what Trump would have told him. He would, in public, Trump would have told his crowd, oh yeah, I told Putin what to do, but in reality, let's be serious here. He probably, behind closed doors, would have had just a normal, decent conversation with Putin, and then he would have called Zelensky and told him, dude, calm down, and here's what here's what you're going to do. This is our plan that Putin and I made, and you better follow. That's probably what Trump would have most likely have done if he was president. And war would have been avoided. The civil war in Ukraine would have ended. The civil war in Ukraine that was started in 2014, and of course, which Ukraine is totally guilty of, murdering innocent men, women, and children for 8 years in a row. Trump probably, basically, he would have just ended that civil war right there by telling Ukraine, okay, get out of the whole Donbass region, get out of there, just give the Lugansk Donetsk region to Russia as autonomous republics within the Russian Federation. Then basically just be a buffer zone, be this neutral country, and that's it. And the establishment, like here's the thing, the Ukrainian establishment, when Trump was running for president originally, the Ukrainian establishment originally sponsored Hillary Clinton because the Ukrainian establishment was worried that Trump will actually, literally in 2016, they were afraid that Trump in 2016 was going to tell Ukraine, hey, Ukraine, calm down, you know, stop your civil war right now. You know, follow the Minsk Accords. And the Ukrainian establishment, they felt that. They're worried about this. And that's why like during the whole election cycle in the US in 2016, they escalated the bombings of the Donbass, right? So like they're hoping maybe we'll just break through as soon as possible and just take it over before Trump becomes president. And of course, you know, none of that happened, and the people of Donbass, you know, stood still. The Ukrainians, they would basically fail at their counterattacks. Well, not counterattacks, but just advances towards Donbass, and the Donbass rebels, you know, held their ground. And of course, that's why they donated to Hillary Clinton. They're hoping that she won. Of course, then of course Donald Trump, you know, totally went off the rails and did his own dumb thing, you know, when he was president. Of course, he had dumb advisors, and he threw the good ones under the bus, and he just assumed that if he would do business with the establishment, that they would probably probably support him. But no, like these people, like these are people who are not business people. They're not like interested in making deals, you know, like they are business people. They're business people, but they're not honest business people, you know. Like they're all in the pockets of like Lockheed, Martin, Raytheon, and General Electric and other companies out there. Big pharma, like they're in the big pockets of big pharma, and so yeah, and that's why like the whole situation in Ukraine just continued to escalate while Trump was president, because Trump did not really do anything about that situation. And yes, but in 2022, the war would have been avoided in 2022 if Trump was president, because let's just say they proved the whole fraud situation. Trump would have literally probably been tougher. In his second term, Trump probably would have been tougher and said, you know what, no more. You know, okay, I'm done playing nice. And that's what they're afraid of. They did not want Trump to win. And so, of course, that's why the whole situation in Ukraine happens, because, you know, Biden and his whole administration, they're hoping there was going to be a regime change in Russia. And of course, you know, none of that happened. And so, I'd say in this context, Donald Trump is basically saying that, he probably would have done some kind of negotiation. So when he says the war never would have happened, he most likely is probably talking about diplomacy. He's probably talking about making some kind of deal. So, yeah, oops, that was very loud. I'm so sorry about that. But, yes, the debates, obviously, you know, I didn't watch the whole debates, and I kind of went back and forth between Trump and the whole Republican thing. But yeah, there you guys go. That was the whole debate. It was pretty short, actually. I thought it was going to be longer. I thought it would be at least 3 hours, but it looks like they're done with the whole thing. Yep. So let's go back here. Yeah, light's over. So okay, guys. Well, y'all have a good night, and God bless.